Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all been doing really well over the past couple of weeks. So today's video is going to be about creating a journal cover, a journal cover out of a thrifted quilt. Now if you watched my last video, which was my thrifted finds from Noosa, I believe it was called, I thrifted a beautiful quilt. I think it was the first thing I pulled out in my video. So I'll just pull it over here so you can see. This is the quilt that I picked up from an op shop. I think it was a Salvation Army or a Vinnie's, I'm not sure. And I paid $5 for this. It's quite large. It's not massive, but it's quite large. And normally something this beautiful I would reuse in my own home, but it did actually have a stain on it and like a tear mark, so I thought it's best to reuse it. A lot of work has gone into this, you know, and I really admire people who make beautiful quilts. I'm not a quilt maker myself, but I hope to be one day. My mum makes beautiful quilts, and she'll teach me one day, hopefully. Mum, please. But yeah, so I really wanted to still put this beautiful quilt that somebody has put all their hard work into to some good use. So as soon as I got it, I automatically thought journal cover, and I didn't know how I was going to go about it. I just sort of thought, oh, you know, I'll figure that out later. And I was going to film the first one that I did on camera for you guys, but then I became a bit self-conscious and I didn't think it would work out, and I just sort of wanted to test it, so I went off and I did a little tester myself, because I actually wanted a new journal myself, moving into a new house, and that I wanted to be able to document everything in there, and yeah, so I wanted to make myself a journal cover. And one of the things I know personally for me that I like my journals to be is soft cover, and I love them to be A5 size. And I'm just going to pop this aside, you guys. A5 size is basically, if you have a sheet of printer paper, it's just that folded in half, and that's A5 size. So this is the size that I prefer to work in with my journals. So I got to work and I didn't measure anything. I typically don't measure anything when it's for myself anyway. I just go for it, you know, and personally I prefer things to be wonky and a bit imperfect as well, because I find journals that are like that for me are easier to work in. Yeah, anyway, so this is what I came up with. This is the journal cover that I've made for myself, and it was not measured. I literally I grabbed some scissors, I eyeballed it, and I cut it. And if you know a quilt, obviously you've got your top layer here with the patchwork pieces, you've got your inside layer, and you've got your back layer here. So when I cut it, all of those layers just fell apart into 3 pieces. So I had to sort of go back and figure out a way how to put them together sort of neatly, because, you know, as you'll see when we go to do this, when I'm cutting it out of the quilt, you're going to have all that inside showing. So I had to sort of hem it, is that the word? Tuck all that under and make it sort of look neat again. But you can tell this one here is completely wonky, you guys, but I adore it. I love it. I love wonky things. Look here, it's just, it is. I think that this top here will measure something completely different to this down here, but it's okay. It still fits a good A5 sheet of paper in it, you know. And I used the leftover scraps that I had just for ties here, and look, once again, this one here is bigger than this one, but it doesn't matter. It still functions. If I wanted to, I can cut it. But it ties up, you know. And this is the back of it here. So there's your piece of the quilt that I have, and I'm at the stage now where I'm not sure if I'm going to sew something in or if I'm going to bang a couple of eyelets in. I'm thinking that I might do the eyelets because I do like to have removable pieces of paper. I like to be able to embellish later rather than before in my journals, so I think I'll do that with mine. But this is just an example, and I thought the next one we do, I'll try and make it a little bit more straight. It's still wonky probably, but a little bit more straight, you know. So we will go ahead now and I will gather up a few bits and pieces and I'll be right back with you. Alrighty guys, so what I've got here is a piece of chipboard that I have just grabbed off the back of a, what do you call it, an art, sort of a sketching pad. It's very thick and I thought I can just use this as a template to cut around my piece of quilt. So the measurements that I've got here are a little bit larger than what I've sort of used for this. So you can tell there's a bit extra added on here, because I did notice that although this does fit inside and there is a tiny bit of room, the more signatures, the more papers you're going to add, the more that's going to sort of bulk out. You want a bit more room for your spine and that kind of thing, so I wanted to add a couple more centimeters on than the one I've got here, just so we've got that ability to add more papers and things like that. So the measurements I've got here of this piece of chipboard is 34 centimeters across times 23 centimeters high, and I'm going to use this as a guide, like I said, with my piece of fabric. And I'm going to bring that over here now. I did attempt to start cutting it with not so much success, so I'm going to have to go off camera, try and do that with a rotary cutter. So I decided that I wanted this piece here to be my front cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut exactly around my template here. I'm going to add about an extra inch, roughly. I'm not going to measure it, but I'm going to add about an extra inch and cut around here, just so I've got some extra space to sort of tuck it in and hem it. So what I might go off camera, I might try here. Hang on guys, let's see if I can do this on camera. Just bear with me 1 second while I just bring some things over, because I don't want to be cutting my desk up. So we'll just bring this over here. And please bear in mind that I am not professional in any way, shape or form. I'm just doing the best I can. So I'm going to grab this back here, and I did want it about here, I think. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. This piece here that you're cutting out does not need to be, I'm just going to cut it up to this piece here. It does not need to be straight because you're going to hem it anyway. What needs to be straight, I found, is the inner part, the felt, because that's what's, you'll see later on, but that's what everything, yeah, I've lost my words, you guys. And this rotary cutter is quite blunt here, so bear with me while I try and attempt to cut this. Okay. So there's that side there cut. I really do have to get a new blade for this. It's just blunt as anything. And I'm going to turn it around. And I hope you guys, I don't see my head poking in here. It's a little bit tricky to do this kind of thing on camera, because normally you're leaning right over a project like this, but with this one you've sort of got to keep back a little bit. And this one here, I'm just going to, yeah, I'm going to run it along that top edge of that quilted piece there too. Alright guys, so what you saw me doing there was absolutely struggling with a really blunt quilt cutter here. Yeah, I've really got to get new blades for it. It's just shocking. So I struggled cutting this quilt. Even these scissors didn't quite cut it, but we got there in the end. And that was just roughly cut. And as you can see here, I've now got about approximately very wonkily a border around there that I'm going to sort of use to tuck in and neaten up my edges. So there is our piece of quilt that I've cut out of the larger piece, and as you can see now here you've got your three pieces. You've got your backing, your middle inner felt piece, and this front piece here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take this apart, and we're probably going to have scraps and pieces everywhere here. There's your piece of felt, there's your backing. I'm going to iron actually these two pieces because I did wash this quilt and it's crinkled up quite a lot, if you can tell here. It's quite crinkled, so I'm going to go off and iron this. But first what I want to do is, this is my inner piece here. Now this is the piece that I want to use my template on, and I want to cut all the way around here. So let's see if we can do that. And then the other pieces, I'm not going to use this on the other pieces. I want to leave them a bit long so I can tuck them sort of under. You'll see as time goes on anyway. So I'm just going to use my template here with a ruler and our very blunt rotary cutter. Hopefully it should work okay on this piece because the felt is quite thin. And you know, if you wanted your journal cover to be a bit thicker, then just grab a thicker piece of, what do you call this? There is a name for it. I'm sorry, I don't quite remember. And I do have some myself that is thicker than this. Is it batting or something? It goes inside your quilts. You can pick them up at fabric stores and things like that. So there's our first piece here. I'm just going to gently, well, not so gently, I'll just line that up again. See, it's not going to be 100% perfect again, but like I said, none of my stuff is really perfect anyway, and I don't really like it to be, so it'll still work out just fine. So yeah, I hope you guys have been having a really good couple of weeks. I have been wanting to film for quite some time, but I just haven't been able to with a lot of the noise going on here. I kind of wish they'd built my neighbour's house at the same time they did ours, but yeah, you know, these things happen. And we've been having some terrible bushfires here, if you guys know. I know a lot of you guys in Australia will know. There's been some terrible bushfires where I live, in southeast Queensland, and also northern New South Wales. So I think it's been about a week now that they've been ongoing, and they've destroyed property, and nobody's lost their lives, but poor wildlife, I think. It's just been absolutely dreadful. And where I live here, I live close to the hinterland where the fires are, but not anywhere where there's a danger zone. But it's been quite difficult because of the amount of smoke. It's just been really irritating, you know, with breathing, and you know, your throat and things like that gets awfully dry and scratchy from that. Even when you keep things locked up in your house, you've got to go out, you know, you've got to go out and run your errands and do all that kind of stuff. So I think there was one day I went out and we had a combination of all of the bushfire smoke and a dust storm. There was dust because of the winds that had made the bushfires worse. It was the winds, and they picked up all the dust and brought it more towards the coast. So we had the smoke and the dust storm. So that day was particularly awful, and I really felt awful when I got home. So they're still burning, and today is actually we're supposed to have a thunderstorm this afternoon, but it's supposed to be a dry thunderstorm, which is actually not good because it means no rain. So it's just going to be really gusty. It's going to be the winds again, which is going to ignite the fires back up, and there's going to be lightning, which might restart fires. So it's been a bit of a terrible start to the bushfire season here in Queensland, and it makes me worry too, because where I live in a bushfire zone, and last year there was a fire here that got ignited by lightning, and it was minutes away from our land. Before the house was built on it, we had our land, we'd already purchased it and gone through that process. So it was very scary to see, and I'm just hoping that we don't have a repeat of that kind of thing this year. So anyway, you guys, do a rain dance for me today, because we really, really desperately need rain here in southeast Queensland. It is so dry. The grass is dead, you know, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I've just cut that out very roughly. It's quite straight, it's not too bad. And there's my inner piece. And here we have the inside piece that we're going to use, but I'm going to take this piece over to the iron and iron it. But I just want to show you what I mean. So I'm going to fold this over here, and I'm going to sew all around it, and then I'm going to do the same to the front and sew them sort of together. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go and iron this, and I will be right back with you. Alright guys, so I just went and ironed my front piece of quilt here, so it looks like this, and we have our inner piece. It's still got some creases on it, but I think it's just that type of fabric. It's not going to come out 100% unwrinkled, but you know, it's okay. So what I'm going to do now is I will bring you to the sewing machine with me, and I'm going to set this up. So I'm going to put this inner piece in here, and you can use, I think that there is fabric glues and sprays and things like that if you want to hold things in place. Pins maybe, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't. I just hold it with my hand and go around. So I'm going to sort of just tuck this in here, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to just sew that all in neatly. I'll fold these sort of corners in here as best as I can. Might have to angle them a wee bit. And yeah, I'll sew that, and then we're going to do the same with the top piece. So once this piece is done, I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to just use my fingers to sort of just tuck it under and sew it on the front. So I'll go and set everything up now, and I will see you at the sewing machine. Alrighty guys, so I'm set up here at my sewing machine, and I'm going to just tuck this little piece over here. I hope you can see what I'm doing okay. I'm just going to tuck this over here sort of neatly, and I'm just going to proceed to sew this to the inside piece. Just pull that back there. I might speed it up for you guys because it's probably going to be a bit of a boring process. I'm going to leave a little bit there at the front. I'm not going to start all the way back there because I still need to tuck that corner in. So I'm just going to start about there. And yeah, hopefully you guys can see okay. Let me just double check, guys. Let me just move you a little bit that way. You might be able to see a little bit better. And I will speed this part up, and I will just sew this down. Alrighty guys, so I've done the inner part here, if you can just see, where I just sewed around. I did have a little bit of difficulty because I didn't leave myself enough room to sort of tuck under, so I had to sort of go off camera and try and fix that up a little bit. And now I'm going to do the exact same process with the top piece of my quilt, where I'm just going to eyeball it basically, and I'm just going to fold those edges under, and I'm going to sew the top piece to this back piece and middle piece here. So it's going to make our journal cover, and I'm not going to do any ties on this one like I did with my one. I think what I'll do is I'll just wrap around something at the end. I don't really like how the ties looked on mine, not 100% anyway, so yeah, I'll just leave those out. So as you can see here, I have tucked under, if you can see that hopefully, I have tucked under this piece here, so it's going to sort of fold in those edges quite nicely, and then we're going to go around and sew it all. So just double check that I'm in frame. So we'll speed this process up for you guys. Sorry if I just knocked you, let me just see. It's a little bit squished here where I am. Hopefully that's okay for you guys. And when I come back, this will all be done, and we'll have a little bit of a chat. Alright guys, so I'm back now from sewing my piece of quilt back together. Very very badly, I might add. I did run into a few hiccups with the corners and things like that. I actually think I did a better job on the corners than that on my first piece, but hey, you know, that's how it goes. Like I said, it's probably not going to turn out perfect anyway. So it still looks quite wonky, but it's fine. It adds to the quirkiness, it adds to the character, and yeah. And like I said, I didn't tie any ties onto this one like I did with my first one. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think I really liked it, but it's not too bad. But we'll see. I might just do some lace and a bow. So this is what the front of this cover is looking like. I hope you could follow along okay. I was just sort of tucking under and sewing. You know, there's probably a lot easier ways to do things like this. You probably could pin it, glue it, do all that kind of stuff. I just don't, you know, I just use my hands and go for it. So yeah, it's absolutely not perfect, as you can see here. That is really bad up the top there. But if you didn't like that front cover piece there, you could use this piece. as your front cover, which is still really nice because you got your patchwork pieces here, but I think I'll keep this. So anyway, that was part 1 of making our journal cover out of a thrifted quilt, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that I sort of I hope you could follow my directions okay. And anyway, so part 2 will be either tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to go off now and tea dye some papers. Part 2, I'm going to do sort of sorting through what pages I want in my journals. I might even work on both together. I'm not too sure. So yeah, it'll just be preparing the papers, and then part 3, what I might do is this one here. I think what I'm going to do is have sewn in signatures, and then for my own personal one, I'm going to pop a few eyelets in. I'm going to have less pages in mine. So that's sort of the way I'm planning on doing this little sort of mini series. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you could follow along. I know I'm terrible at explaining things, so I do apologise. Any questions, you guys, just pop them down below and I'll try my best to answer them. But like I said, once again, I'm not a professional, so, you know, please bear that in mind when you watch the videos. But I hope you're all having a lovely day, and please go out and do a rain dance for me because we need this rain this afternoon. But I will talk to you again soon in my next video. Bye guys!